Good evening and welcome to Coach World TV. My name is Terry Yoffe, and tonight as my guest I have an absolutely very special guest. His name is Michael Bagley, and he is president of MB Designs. So Michael and I go back to, I don't know, the horse and buggy days. Not quite, but we've known each other, I don't know, we were just trying to figure it out.
A little over 20 years.
A little over 20 years in past lifetimes. So Michael has a very interesting story, and he is such a creative genius that I really wanted to bring him on the show to really have him tell us how he kind of taps into that creative spirit. So, Michael, how are you?
I'm fine, and this is all very exciting. I think that we talk about the creative process, and it's something that I think, my belief is that everyone has a creative seed within them. If you're able to find it, and to water it, and to nurture it, and do something with it that pleases you, you're giving the best of what you have to the world around you while you're satisfying your own desire. And as Terry said, I've done a number of things.
Yeah.
And
So start where we met in the hotel
in
business.
the hotel business.
Right.
I moved to New York in 1986. I was hired as the Vice President of Sales for the Americas for Meridian Hotels, which was a French-based hotel company. I never wanted to come to New York. I came kicking and screaming because I had one of those offers you couldn't refuse. And I started out as the head of sales, and we had 55 hotels in 30 countries. And so I traveled the globe working on developing business for these properties. And after several years, the president of the company called me into his office and said, I don't think that the hotels are doing as well as they should. Why do you think that is? And my reaction was, I think that we're telling people that they should buy products that they're really not interested in. And so we should adjust what we're doing. And so he said, well, what would you call that? And I said, I guess it's like product marketing. And he said, okay, well, that's your new job.
New title.
And as I was saying to you earlier, it was really a fascinating experience because up until that point, I could always judge my success by dollar value.
Like we all could in
Absolutely,
sales.
in sales.
Absolutely. That's what I come out of also.
And then this was a whole transition. This was asking me to find ways of validating my intrinsic sensitivity and defend that an advertising campaign should speak this language, should look like this. Things that were very subjective. And so I found myself really having to take a step back and find within myself the trust to feel that my gut reaction to what I was looking at or what I was talking about had validity. And it opened up a whole new world for me. I went from there to, when I left the hotel industry, I had a friend who had a furniture company. And so I was helping him market his company. And I realized that furniture was rather interesting to me. And I went on an interview to secure a contract for him to make the furniture for this project. And the owner said to me, I'm interested in having all custom furniture for this project. Can you do that for me? And I thought, sure, I think I can. I had an idea of what I thought the furniture should look like. And so, unbeknownst to me, there was a competition. And so I submitted my designs for what I thought would be appropriate, and I won. And at the time, my partner was an interior designer, and I went home and said, look, I got this contract. And his reaction was, how did you do that? People go to school for years to do these, and you just walked in there, and I thought to myself, you know what? If I think I can, then I will try.
let's hold
Okay.
that. That's great. You know, so when Michael and I talked about what we could talk about and how we could bring it back to Coach World TV and the world of what we do, which is coaching and working with clients and coaching, being a coach, I thought there's really a synergy when we look at having the confidence to have in your gut a feeling that I can do this or work with somebody and bring up your intuition, which is also could be creative part of you. And you know, there was Michael in the hotel business and saw something one way and told his boss, this is, you know, this is what you're doing wrong, and this is how we could correct it. And then, you know, he joins forces with someone who has a furniture business and goes in and says, sure, I could do that. So, you know, it's instilling confidence in ourselves and in our clients that we coach them around certainly confidence and talking up. So this is, I think, a great synergy.
Well, and also it's about, we talked about assessing your skill set
Okay.
and sort of, you know, taking heed of all the strengths that you have as an individual. They're not exclusive to an industry. They have
right.
a practical application to a multitude of other things. And I've had this conversation with a number of friends of mine when they're not happy doing what they're doing. I'm like,
Right.
make a list of the things that you like and the things that you think that you're the best at, and then step outside of your parentheses and look in a different direction and see if those same skills can be applied. And most oftentimes they can.
And we do that with clients all the time. If they want to change careers, they want to make transitions, you know, they look at, well, I've got this skill set, and if I go somewhere else, I don't want to start at the bottom. And so we look at a skill set, and I always ask clients, what's your strengths? What are your challenges? What are your accomplishments? What's your criteria? What are your talents? So that you're able to really have a good picture of what your strengths are, your skill sets, and then look at where can you take them and kind of have a movable feast somewhere else. And that could be in a lot of places.
Well, it comes, I think, as we talked about before, most of the time when I see this in just conversations with people that I work with or friends of mine, a lot of people feel that all they can do is that which they do, and or that which they have been officially trained for. And you know what? I just am, for one, my theory is that the parentheses within which we live is very much self-set. And I feel very fortunate that I've now going on my 5th company.
Right, we're going to hear about
that. You know what? You can reinvent yourself. You can
Absolutely.
change your direction. You can do a multitude of things if you really want to, and you spend the energy and the time to make the adjustments.
Absolutely. I mean, I was in fashion for a very long time, and then converted that to my own little company, and then advertising sales, where Michael and I met, and then to my own business, and then to coaching. But you know, a common thread was working with people, and people trusted me and liked me, and so I was able to keep rolling over some of my skill set to these different arenas.
You know, you bring up a very valid point, and it's believability. And when you have the personality and you have the conviction of delivering your message however you choose to do it, and people believe it and they feel comfortable with you, it adds exponentially to the options you have.
I agree. That's a very good point. And certainly, I've known you over the years that this has been, you know, as I tell people, all we have is our reputation in business. That is it. And if you don't have a good one, it will follow you, not so great, wherever you go.
Right.
If you have a great one, you can move mountains. I mean, truly, you can. After being in advertising sales, I started my own rep company and was highly successful because people knew me
Right.
and they knew what to expect. And then when I went into coaching, people didn't know me. However, I was able to have that believability, that trust, and that's part of the core competencies in working with clients, developing, co-creating the relationship with a client.
And also,
And in
great
anything,
listening
doesn't have to
skills.
be.
It doesn't, because now, I have an interior design firm, which is yet one other thing. But the similarities are about relationships. They are about asking the right questions and listening very carefully. And I think that I liken what I do now as an interior designer. I don't walk into a room and see only one thing. I see a multitude of things. And so, my objective is find as many right answers to the questions as you can. But it comes down to having a dialogue and establishing a level of credibility and confidence. And you can do amazing things with it.
And that's what we do in coaching. I mean, it's co-creating, it's about relationship with our clients. If you don't develop the relationship, then there's never going to be the trust and the safe space for somebody to come and open up and so you're able to work with them. And then I hear, you're in the service business. And you'll get into your whole bakery, and that's a whole nother business that Michael has created. But even in interior design and the whole furniture, if you don't create a relationship with your client, they're not going to want to work with you.
The furniture company is an interesting one for relationships because I started this 16 years ago. And you know what? When people said to me, well, what do you know about furniture? I no longer have to answer the question because my furniture company does furniture for Gucci, Tiffany, Belstaff, Tom Ford, Chanel, Louis Vuitton, Christian Dior, globally.
Well, aren't you a name dropper?
Well, but there's a good point here. The moment that you have accomplished something with a client of note, it's amazing how many or how few times you're ever asked whether or not you're capable of doing something. If I can produce furniture for Tiffany, most people are not going to ask me if I'm able to do it because
Right.
I'm doing it.
They may ask how much you charge. But,
We're going to talk about that.
I'm just
No, I
saying
know.
that, and that's so true. I mean, I had to, when I left the world of sales, I literally had to go back to school to train to be a coach. So if I were somewhere up here, I now was somewhere in the basement because
Yeah,
I
but
had to start over
But
again.
you had a lot of those skills.
Right,
You would just
but I had to
redefine it.
start over and address and grow credibility. And now, 10 years later, I have a tremendous website, and if all people have to do is read my testimonials, that's the same thing. That's the whatever. If you've got 6 pages of testimonials or 7, then people have to see that.
Right,
No,
it speaks for you.
Right. The door's been opened, just like for you.
Yeah, exactly. The bakery.
Oh,
You know what? I have an analogy that if life is like a highway, you don't want to be in the breakdown lane for sure, but don't get in the high-speed lane either. Travel down the middle. And if you see an exit that looks interesting, get off. Because sometimes when you get off the exit, you find something that causes you to change
I
your
love that.
destination.
I'm going to use that as a part of my little
Poetic
repertoire.
license, feel free. You know what? I've gotten off many exits, and I've changed my destination many times.
Yeah, and you still do, but you're still doing a couple of the other things.
All of them.
Right. You're just adding on to your repertoire, if you will, because a few years ago you got into the whole bakery business.
You know what? This was a whole new idea that actually many of the things that Terry has talked about, there's a link. The furniture company to the interior design firm
Right.
to the antique and home furnishings and lighting business, they're all still very active, and
Right. They're
they
in the
all
same
relate to one
genre.
another.
Right,
Absolutely.
exactly.
Well, along came the idea for a bakery, which really was starting as a concept for a lifestyle brand that was going to start with
Okay.
food. And so we created this Faves Treatery, Fave for favorites, and Treatery because it was not just about sweets. It was about sweets and savories and anything in between that we thought was good. And out of that came the newest product that we're doing, the Bruffin.
Right, the Bruffin.
As I was giving you the whole thing about getting off the highway on an exit that looks interesting, this is the one that really has me questioning why I got off the exit. But you've known me for a long time.
Right.
Failure is not an option. You know what? We find the solution to make things work. But you know what? Again, the skill set, the marketing sensibility that I've used elsewhere
Right.
applies here. The only thing that is different is I put on so much weight.
Right.
But you know what? It's I think one of the things that is great as you grow, you continue to learn, and it's learning not just what you're good at, but finding out sometimes that you're not as good as you think you might be, and that's when you need a coach.
That's true. And, I love the idea of kind of being flexible and adaptable because, when I went from advertising sales for a major publication and then I started my own little rep company, I somehow saw that the landscape had changed. And, who moved my cheese? I could keep going up and down that same landscape. But I said, I got to get off and do something different. I had no idea what that would be. And I somehow found coaching, and it found me. And this was, again, like you did the whole bakery thing.
Right.
Coaching, you're in advertising sales, you have your own rep company, they're related. But then you go off the beaten path to become a coach, and people might have known you as a great salesperson. However, I don't know her as a coach, However, a couple of my old clients did sign up because they knew me. And it just, it grew slowly. So had I not been willing to be flexible and adaptable and say, okay, I didn't want to do that anyway, I'm going to go this route and try it, I wouldn't have done it.
Right.
So, skill sets, people-oriented, and a couple of, sales, marketing, which I did. And what I refer to it as with clients is we all have bankable nuggets. That from day one, they're skills that we file away in the bank, and we can forget that we have them until we go, oh my gosh, I forgot about that. I could pull that out and now use it.
You know what? I have another analogy for you. That life is a high-rise building, and you're taking the stairs and not the elevator. Every time you get to a landing, don't just look up to see how far you have left to go. Look down to see how far you've already come. Because every time there's always been a step in front of you, and you've taken it. So, that's the other one you can.
Yeah,
feel
I
free
like
to
that.
use.
There's a saying by someone, I forget, and it's something like, be willing to move forward even if you don't see this whole staircase. So be willing to take a step even though the whole staircase isn't in front of you.
Well, and it's
In a way.
Yeah, it is, and I think
And-
it all comes down to your level of self-confidence and trusting
not.
yourself. Right, but trusting yourself.
Right. And that's so true for us as coaches and working with clients, that they sometimes get into a dilemma, or they're at a stuck place, where they don't know what the next step could be. And it's, you know, if they come to us as coaches, part of our responsibility is to help show them what they can do, not tell them, but to show them or advise them, but to help them have a vision for where they want to go, and then be willing to take whatever steps they need to and get out of a comfort zone. Can't do what I've done or what Michael has done by living in a comfort zone.
Right.
That
Very
doesn't
true.
work, and a lot of people want to be in the comfort zone, and that's fine once in a while. However, if you want to do things with your life and have all these companies and be successful with the Tiffany's and the Gucci's and the Fords, you have to be willing to let go of the comfort zone and go into bold action.
And also, you know what, and this is where I think coaching is really vital. Collaborations oftentimes produce the best results. You know, having another point of view or someone to look at a similar situation from their perspective and sharing it with you and being open to what they're telling you. Because and this is one thing you'll appreciate because of our days with Meridian, you know, working for a foreign company for a period of time, you know, fortunately I was curious enough to want to know what everybody else's point of view was. And it encouraged me to discover, as I alluded to before, that there can be many right answers to the same questions.
Absolutely.
And by having a collaboration, you're able to find more right answers to the same question. And it just arms you to use them at another point in the future, even if it's not relevant at the moment.
And you can also have right paths to take. There doesn't have to be one.
Right.
There could be several. And in working with clients, you know, as a coach, we ask them questions that open their minds to things they might not have thought about.
Which, as a sales strategy, ask the right questions, you'll find out the
Right.
information you need to get back to them.
Right, exactly, exactly. So there you go. After doing that, and it is in collaboration, and it is in having someone who doesn't come from a point of view. Meaning, as a coach, our minds are kind of open. We don't judge, and it's not, if somebody says to me, "What do you think, Terry? What would you do?" It's not, I said, "Doesn't matter what I do, what would you do?" And then let's look at that. So it's always pointing them, because they have all the answers.
Right.
They need to get
help
it
them find
flushed
them.
out a little
Right.
bit. So the Bruffin, where are you with that? Because it's actually really taken off. You've kind of
It is.
you've kind of underplayed it a little bit.
Well, you know what?
So-
We've had such a good reaction to it. There's a number of products that we produce, but this one was the leader from the start. It's something that, you know, it's a light flaky pastry that we fill with these amazing ingredients, and they're all from all over the world. The visual presentation of them is arresting. They're great to look at. The flag of each country that inspired the ingredients are on each one of them, and so there's a whole story that goes along with Bruffin. And we've been testing them at a couple of the markets, and the response has been incredible. So we are looking to open our first Bruffin bar.
A Bruffin bar. You going to serve coffee also?
Absolutely. No liquor. We call it Bruffin bar just because it sounds good, but no, it'll be great coffee, great juices, other things that we do in addition to the Bruffin, but that's really the focal point. And we have a very odd situation. The first building that we're interested in going into, the landlords actually want to meet with us because they're intrigued about the Bruffin.
They probably want to taste
They
them.
want to taste them. We're bringing them.
I know.
A dozen warm Bruffins.
Gosh.
So it's really been fun. But again, I don't want to. It's yet another step about learning about what your capabilities may or may not be. So, you know what? I always would say to myself, if I'm trying something new that I haven't done before, if I fail, I have the other things that I've done before that I could be successful at. So,
Right. It's
Fall back.
and it's, you know, people look at failure as something awful, and it's not really. You know, in coaching, we say there's no such thing as failure. There's only feedback.
You know what? A very good point, because we closed 3 satellites
Right.
that we discovered were not working because we were trying to bring a product level into an area where it wasn't understood. And so while we closed those, we didn't consider those a failure. It was part of the learning curve.
Absolutely.
And it just helped us redefine where we were going and how we were going to get there.
And as coaches, we always have a learning curve, always learning. I mean, you know, I learned so much from clients, and for our clients, they're learning and they're uncovering. And, you know, it's like people have a mentality of, oh my God, I failed. It's just a mentality that's there, and I let them know that there's no such thing as failure, that we don't really look at that. So once they can get away from that, you know, people aren't successful unless they have a learning curve, unless there is a learning and opportunity to see what happened, like you did with the bakeries.
Bakeries. Well, you know, there's a very significant difference between disappointment and failure. And I think that definition, at least for me, when I was able to see the difference between the two, it made my ability, my comfort level of moving forward much easier.
Yeah.
I may be disappointed that something doesn't happen the way that I would
Absolutely.
like it to. I did not fail.
Right, right. And look at what you have, all the other things to have you say, of course not, you know?
Right.
And that's true. That's what I talk about we talk about with clients. When their worst case scenario, and I say, oh, what's the learning? What's the opportunity? They go, are you kidding me? You know, it's like, they don't see it at first because they want to go to that other mode. But once they start to see that, then it's aha. So we've got only a few more seconds left, believe it or not. Tell our audience your website in case anyone wants to go there.
Well,
please.
if you Google Michael Bagley, I will come up first.
Right.
And you'll see my interior design firm is michaelbagley.com. My furniture company is called Wood Spring and Down.
Great name. Great
my
name.
antique and home furnishings business is Objectiques. I'm big on names.
Yeah.
And the bakery, well, just go to thebruffin.com and you'll see this wonderful little creation.
And
see
I
where it's
want to
going.
thank you so much for being on
This
the
is
show.
fun.
It's been